Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Gainesville's Tuesday meeting at the Cade Museum. Please silence your cell phones, and if you're watching on YouTube, please register your participation by sending an email to info@rotary.org. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Sims to lead us in Song and Pledge.
Thanks, Jenna. Gordon Hubble, we appreciate him playing every week. He's going to accompany us today with My Country 'Tis of Thee. Ready, Maestro? My country 'tis of thee. In the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Lori Vidal.
Well, there's no joy in Mudville, is there? But so we're going to hear a positive report here today. So let us join together and pray. From well over 2,000 years ago, the ancient sages have given us these words of wisdom. In a race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize. Run in such a way as to get the prize. I beat my body and make it my slave so that I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. We are grateful for our coaches who develop athletes to compete for our favorite teams. We take great delight in supporting and watching the benefits that come from well-coached teams. The benefits of clear purpose, the strive for excellence, and playing by a set of rules. As an entity called Rotary, designed to create wins in our community, help us all, Father, to encourage and coach in our community how to play by the rules of the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. I pray in your creative spirit. Amen.
We ask that you're a guest or a traveling Rotarian to please stay standing, and we'll introduce you to the club.
Fellow Rotarians, I have the pleasure of introducing Eric Atria. He is a criminal attorney here locally. And full disclosure, that's not how I know him. He does not represent me. I know him as a musician here locally as well. He was involved in a band called Morning Bell. And he also plays with the Shoddy Beatles. So let's give Eric a big warm welcome.
My fellow Rotarians, it's my pleasure to introduce my son, John Thomas. Many of you know him as Charlie. Charlie just graduated from college and is starting his first real-world job on Monday with United Rent-A.
My name is David Nicholson. I have two guests, Mrs. Judith Ford, who is a crazed basketball woman-type fan, and her partner in crime, Roger Strauss, the same type of person, and they really live every sport at the university.
Thank you all for joining us today. Now, if you please join me in celebrating the birthdays of our Rotarians with September birthdays. If your birthday is in September, please bring your dollar over to John Thomas. So we've got Tony Barr, Colin Burrows, Mary Day Coker, Tom Collette, Simon Harris, Grace Horvath, Ivan Ulrich, Jerry Painter, Melanie Shore, and Terry Wilson. And now Jeff Sims is going to lead us in a round of happy birthday for all of our September birthdays.
let's thank David Nicholson for bringing the yummy desserts today. Celebrate birthdays. One other quick note, I like to celebrate people's accomplishments, and I spoke with Mary Crane a couple of weeks ago and saw that she has written a book. And so you might want to stop by her table and talk to her about that. I know they're selling it at a local bookstore and online, but the main thing is just what a great accomplishment, a collection of her poems.
And with an announcement for us today, Greg Young.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. It's my honor to give you an update on one of our committees that was busy in the last week or so here. It's the Chain Gang. Ben, you might know a little something about that since you started that, the Rotary Chainsaw Gang. They were there. Oh, I had to put saw in there too, sorry. The Chainsaw Gang, that was after 2004 hurricane season. You may recall that we had about 3 of them hit the peninsula and 1 came through the panhandle. Well, Ben sprung into action and started a committee to help people in need that needed some tree removals from their driveways so they could get from their homes to where they needed to go. Anyway, Ben initiated that and brought that to Rotary. And let's see if I can make this work. You know, Wes, that would be a wonderful idea. I think that works better that way. Thank you. So, how much does it cost to have a tree removed? Well, we were going to need a tree removed out at Hatchet Creek that fell on our caretaker, Terry Sullivan. Her home had a huge oak tree on her home. Well, to get that removed, the estimate was $10,000. So, Chainsaw Gang sprung into action. Wilbur Holloway, I think I saw you walk in. Wilbur and his crew, Helen Warren, I saw Helen here today, Marty Meisner, I think Wes Eubank was in attendance as well, and one of the neighbors that lives out there. They removed that tree for $0, a lot of sweat equity, and maybe a few beverages, I don't know. But anyway, they did that out at Hatchet Creek over the course of 2 days. And I think we owe them a debt of gratitude, and I'm going to show you. Yes, please. Bryn, I'm hitting that. That was the before. That was a good, significant tree. That was them on the gang hard at work. This was the remnants of their work. And again, this was a group of people that came together to do something in our community, and they have done it for others other than Rotarians in the past. So again, it all starts with an idea. So Ben Campen, and I think there's what? 1 more? 2 more. Oh, here we have Marty Meisner and Wilbur. Wilbur's our fearless leader now. Hang in there. And anyway, this is the group that was out there, and we want to thank them all again so much for doing their job out there. And thank you.
Thank you for the update, Greg. Now, if you'll all please join me, we have a special craft talk today for Miss Jean Chalmers.
Oh, what nice, friendly faces. Oh, okay. Thank you for the tip. My name is Jean Marion McCormick Chalmers, and I'm a political creature. Growing up on a farm in northern Alberta, the youngest of 7, it took a lot of political skills just to get anyone's attention. And I love attention. Remember that old cartoon that showed a little girl standing on a diving board saying, "Look at me, look at me." And then the next cartoon was her getting down saying, "It's no fun if nobody's looking at me." That is me. When my father died at the beginning of World War II, we moved to Victoria, the beautiful capital city of British Columbia. There, I learned how to use political power when I became captain of the local after-school roller skating club. I immediately started lobbying for a greater variety of clip-on wheels so we wouldn't have to go home to change our shoes before going to the rink. We won. Next, I lobbied for us to be allowed to bring drinks with us. Again, we won, and I became a hero. I loved it. In Victoria, with our well-practiced British accents, we would proudly say, if we were any more British, we couldn't talk at all. So it's not surprising that a lot of us went to London in 1953 to see the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Electric billing machines were just coming in to England, and I had lots of experience with them in Canada, so I was a hot product to the temporary employment market. I ended up with a permanent job in the offices of the Reader's Digest, which was located among the bombed-out buildings in the shadow of St. Paul's Cathedral. By living in a hostel-like digs at the Down Under Club, I was able to save enough money to go hitchhiking throughout war-torn Europe all one summer. What an adventure that was. Flyers looking for workers were posted on the walls at the youth hostel centers where we slept. Most of the centers were old air raid shelters, and the beds were bales of hay. Responding to the first, we went off to Spain to help get in the orange harvest, a skill that came in handy when I moved to Florida. The next flyer offered us a free train ride if we would go to Vienna to help fill sandbags against the Great Flood of 1954. Decades later, I was amused when I was on a Viking tour and the guide pointed out the high water marks on those walls. I knew those walls very well. The train ride through Austria was strange because all the blinds were pulled down when we went through the Soviet Union-occupied zone. Vienna itself was divided into occupiers. The French English-American zone was full of music, restaurants, and spring wine, where the city officials paid for our hard work by awarding us with great bottles of Riesling. The Soviet Union zone was quiet and gray, and almost no one was on the streets. Vienna was cold and wet, and we longed for sunny Italy. So we went to the outskirts of town and started hitchhiking in that direction, only to be picked up by the troops of the Russian army and locked in a local jail. They allowed one phone call out, and that one was to the Canadian embassy. The old Canucks scolded us and put us on a train to Munich. In Munich, we were amazed by the luxury afforded to the population by the US Marshall Plan. There was no rationing, as there was in England. We could just go into a shop and buy some candy without a ration coupon. Women were wearing honest-to-goodness nylon stockings, something we had not seen since the beginning of the war. We rubbed colored cream on our legs, and then we'd get a friend to draw a pencil line down the back so people would think we had nylon stockings on. You know, I've often wondered why the USA did not offer the Marshall Plan to England. If anyone knows, see me after the talk, because that bothers me. Finally, back in England, I was able to earn enough money to buy a ticket to New York City on the Cunard line. Believe me, it was not the Cunard line that you hear advertised on television. It was just a big, rather shabby boat full of war refugees from Germany and food refugees from Ireland. I arrived in New York City with $9 and the phone number of the Jacobs family up in the Bronx. Aaron Jacobs had been one of my favorite hitchhiking partners in Europe, where boys would travel with girls so they could get better rides, and girls liked to travel with boys for protection against aggressive men. Let me just tell you a little story. In Italy, a lot of the men had POW numbers on their arms, and they'd say, "Oh, we love Inglesi girls." POW, see, we were in England. With my English accent, I got a receptionist job at a fashion house in the garment district in New York the very next day. And in 2 or 3 weeks, I started with them as a model. Thus began my modeling career in that wonderful city. But the longing for a more intellectual life was strong, so I quit, enrolled in NYU, and got a night job as a barmaid at the Mafia Bar in Little Italy, just south of Greenwich Village where I lived. One of my regular customers brought his visiting friend, Professor David Chalmers, to meet this intellectual barmaid, and the rest is history. On December 28, 1958, we were married in the Big Apple. New York was given that horse racing name by the African-American stable hands, and F. Scott Fitzgerald made it famous. We made it to Swan Lake with my 2 French poodles and my earthly belongings in David's VW bus, and we were just in time for the New Year's house party in Gainesville. In those days, there were no bridges along the small streams along State Road 24. We just had to gun the engine and bounce over the stones to keep us from sinking down into the sand. We had borrowed John Mayen's truck to safely go back and forth on this road, so we arrived at my first important event in Gainesville in that old red truck. Never mind, I wore my black backless dress, and I'm told that I was the talk of the town for the next week. Of course, no one ever told me what was said in the talk. A few days later, wearing another pretty New York dress and carrying an umbrella, I was walking down Southwest First Avenue in front of Baird's Hardware. Remember, goods used to be piled out on the sidewalk, leaving only a narrow path to walk? An elderly African-American couple coming in the opposite direction actually stepped off into the gutter to let me pass. I went home and said to David, I cannot live in the land of Jim Crow. To which he replied, well, we can move up north or stay and fight. What would you like to do? The path was clear. We stayed and fought. The next decade was devoted to the civil rights in our town. David went to jail in St. Augustine along with Martin Luther King and the mother of the governor of Massachusetts, Mrs. Peabody, and I opened up the first integrated school in town, the Millhopper Cooperative Nursery School. Friends went to jail and we raised money to bail them out. Houses got torched and we opened our houses to civil rights workers. People's dogs got shot. Strange private schools were opened. Good teachers lost their jobs. The Ku Klux Klan met in the woods and celebrated the fact that Newberry was the lynching capital of the South. Indeed, these were the best of times and the worst of times, but we finally won. The civil rights movement taught me how to organize, how to make speeches, how to raise money, and how to speak to power. So I ran for city commission, losing the first time and winning the next 2 times. I even ran for the Florida House once, but lost to my friend and colleague, David Flagg. It was just too early for a woman, and David was a good guy. It was at that time that the Rotary Club denied me membership, but embraced David Flagg. During this hectic period, while raising 2 children, Henry, now an attorney in Atlanta, and Kim, a violinist who taught and performed throughout Florida and is now my real estate partner, I studied health planning at UF, where I finally graduated, Phi Beta Kappa, and got a position at the Alachua County Crisis Center. There, I established a 16-county information and referral service. During this period, I also served on the Board of Trustees at Alachua General Hospital, being the committee chairperson for the building of the new hospital, negotiating the agreement with UF Shands Hospital, and establishing the statewide AvMed health program. Those were busy days. In 1982, I resigned from AGH and the Crisis Center to become a Gainesville City Commissioner. In those days, the City Commission elected one of their own to be mayor for the year. My year was 1985-86, so I was able to represent Gainesville in Tegucigalpa in Honduras, Cumberland in Scotland, and Novorossiysk in the Soviet Union. I paid my own way. When UF built a new medical building on campus, we taxpayers of Gainesville had to pay to send all our firefighters to special training on how to cope with a fire in a nuclear disposal site. And we had to buy a very expensive hook and ladder truck to reach the remote interior of this building. The only positive result was we were able to ship our old hook and ladder truck to the Honduras and won many friends down there. I had many encounters with UF, but one of the sad ones was having the faculty at the Warrington College of Business campaigning against me because I had initiated a plan for Gainesville to stop investing any funds in South Africa as long as apartheid remained. When I left City Hall and lost my house race, I knew that I never wanted to hire again, fire again, or do an annual evaluation again as long as I lived. My professor, who was a director of my health systems research funded by the CDC, wanted me to get a PhD, and my friend, M.M. Parrish, wanted me to go into real estate. I said, okay, Em, I'll give you 5 years, and then I'm going to start on my PhD. That was 33 years ago. Now I sell houses together with my brilliant daughter, Kim Chalmers, and I support my broker, Matt Thomas, and the rest of the time I just help local nonprofits, and the most important thing being the Matheson Museum, and I try to finish my memoir. So if anyone knows an agent, get in touch with me. Thank you so much for listening.
Well, thank you, Jean. I think that we should have Jean come back as a program speaker sometime, because it sounds like she has a lot of really great stories for us. I'm John Thomas. I'm sitting in today for President Ryan, who is down in South Florida at some meetings. And I want to welcome you today, to all of our in-person Rotarians and everybody on Zoom. And I'd like to bring up Tom Collette to introduce our speaker.
It's a great honor and privilege for me today to introduce our speaker. She is in her 4th season, starting this fall, as the head coach of the University of Florida women's basketball team. Last year, her most recent season, she led the women's basketball program that ended an impressive postseason run at the 2024 SEC tournament. They advanced to the quarterfinals of the tournament with back-to-back wins, which I watched both, which were very exciting, with wins in rounds 1 and 2. And following the tournament, they earned the number 3 seed in the inaugural Women's Basketball Invitational Tournament. 2017 was her first year here at Florida, where she served as assistant coach for 2 seasons, before being promoted to associate head coach in May of 2019, and then as interim head coach in 2021. Her first year as head coach was highlighted by being named the Spalding Maggie Dixon Rookie Coach of the Year by the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. She was also honored by USA Today Sports Network SEC Coach of the Year and a semifinalist for the Naismith Coach of the Year award. Prior to coming to join us here in Gainesville, she was an assistant coach at the University of Arizona. Her first stop in collegiate women's basketball was at Harvard, where she spent 3 years as an assistant coach. A graduate of Colorado State University in 2008, a bachelor's degree in human development and family studies. She was a 2-year letter winner for the Rams and was a Mountain West Conference Scholar Athlete of the Award, the Scholar Athlete Award winner in 2008. She started her collegiate career at Northwestern University, where she lettered in 2004-2005. I have been blessed to be able to call women's basketball games for more than a decade now, and it's been great to see her working the sidelines, especially with a now almost 16-year-old daughter who has picked up basketball after starting with volleyball. So whichever direction she takes, whether it be volleyball or basketball, I know she'll be in good hands with Mary Wise and with our speaker today if she chooses basketball. It's an honor to bring up women's basketball head coach Kelly Rae Finley.
Well, that was a great introduction, Tom. Let me see if I can get this thing off of here. There we go. I'm more of like a walk around kind of speaker. Is that all right with everybody? I see the TV here. I'm gonna make you work a little bit. Is that all right? Okay. You don't have to follow me. It's all right. I'll be right here. Okay. First of all, I just want to say the most sincere thank you for having me. What a pleasure it is. Just listening to the speakers before. That's a hard act to follow. That's quite inspiring, and I don't have any stories that can quite touch yours. So thank you for all the work that you've done. That's put us where we are today. I think it's people like you that have paved the path for people like me to do the job that I do. For that, I'm always very, very grateful. So I got to be honest with you guys. When I came here, I was thinking of my grandfather. He was very, very involved in Rotary Club in Minnesota. But I had never asked him, what is the Rotary Club? And those of you who know me, there are several of you out here, I'm just really honest, transparent, and authentic. So I don't claim to know what I don't know. And so I was looking it up when I was talking with Tom, and I was like, wow, and he said it very beautifully. I think service above self. What a cool club, guys. Who doesn't want to be a part of something like that? And when I was driving here, I was thinking, oh gosh, okay, obviously I came from the gym. I look kind of crazy, but I am a basketball coach, so this is what we wear. And I was thinking, I always think, okay, how do I inspire or how do we uplift the people that you have an opportunity to speak to? Because with that comes tremendous responsibility, right? I can talk about our team, our season, X's and O's, whatever it is you guys want to hear about, and I'll welcome and invite any question that you have. But then reading about Rotary, listening, I was thinking, wow, you guys in your club really align with our team and our mission and really who I am. So I'll tell you just a short story. I started coaching and I never wanted to coach. My dad was a coach and he was like, okay, I graduate from college. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I hate the business of sport. I don't like what it means. I don't like what it was. I was a 18-year-old kid who went to college. I went to Northwestern. I played a lot. I was very fortunate. I went to college thinking, I'll never forget my dad telling me, work really hard, do everything your coach says. And if you're lucky, you'll play when you're a junior. I was like a 6'2", highly recruited shooting guard, right? So I was scared to quit. I was scared to not finish the run or finish, whatever was ahead of me. Well, I broke my leg. When I broke my leg, I learned what it felt like to become really unimportant really fast. That's a bad feeling for a 19-year-old girl, right? So I transferred. I thought, okay, I'll play, whatever. Well, it left a really sour taste in my mouth for the sport and the business of sport. Well, fast forward then, had the opportunity to go watch my brother play ice hockey in Boston. And I had remembered this coach, and she was so inspiring, and I just remembered thinking, wow, all her players want to come back. Happened to be Kathy Delaney Smith. Anne Marie, you might know her. She coached at Harvard for the last 40 years. She was a pioneer in the sport and in her world as well. So I went out there and I emailed her. I didn't think she'd email me back. I'll shorten my story a little bit, okay? We meet and she's like, okay, so how'd you know about the job? I'm like, huh? What job? Oh, no, I'm not doing a job. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna work with special needs kids. That was my passion. Long and the short of it, she had a volunteer position open. She hadn't found anybody. We hit it off. And I called my dad. I'm like, oh yeah, Dad. But he said, they can't pay me anything. So I'm not going to do that. And he's like, oh, Kathy Delaney Smith, tell her you're staying. I'll ship you your stuff. I'm like, okay, great. But that's how I started coaching. And what I learned and what we're trying to do here at the University of Florida, we want to win championships. We want to win a championship for the first time here in women's basketball. But we also know that that's very hard. And there's a lot more that goes into it, right? And so when you were saying, I forget where you are, the gentleman that was saying the prayer, Discipline of your mouth, your mind, and your body, those are things that are incredibly important to our success in helping develop young women. That's my job. That's my role. When we set out, and Tom was talking about our first year, our only goal, everybody, was just to create a great experience. A challenging environment, but a positive environment where we could create an experience that left lifelong memories and lessons. So for those of you that have played sport, I don't know about you, but I learned just about every life lesson that I have in my life now that I use through sport. And that's what we're trying to do. But so I started coaching at Harvard, and it taught me everything that I felt like was right about sport. And here at the University of Florida, we have all the resources. We have everything that we need. But most of all, we have the people that sacrifice and serve each other so that young student athletes and people can learn what service is. Now, that's a little tainted in the world of NIL, right? We can all agree on that. However, there's still space in our community for, I feel, our team is awesome. For those of you that have met them, they've got great personality, but we serve, we uplift, and we inspire. Because that's the responsibility that we have as young women in the roles that we've been given. And so I think we can do it all. I'm really excited and encouraged by our team this season. We've been practicing. They're back at school. They're competitors. I think that would be the best way to describe them this year, and hard workers. They don't want any handouts. They don't want anything to be given to them, which we all love that, but they'll work for what they earn. We have really talented young freshmen, first-year students. So on our team, we have 17-year-olds and 24-year-olds. Those of you that have kids, that's a huge gap, is it not? So there's a lot of learning, a lot of teaching, but it stretches us as coaches. And we just had a staff meeting this morning to remind ourselves that the mission behind coaching is teaching. And you have to do everything with the spirit of that. And when you do things with love, I love you, I'm not going to let you fail. I love you, so there might be a consequence. I love you, so I'm going to wipe those tears. But let's teach them how to be strong, confident young women who are extremely successful. So when they grow up and they own their own companies or they're a part of a business, they're a positive, valuable asset. And then they want to sit in a room like this where your mission is not only to serve yourself, but to serve other people. And I'll leave you with this. A lot of people ask me, they watch me coach and they go, why are you the way you are? What? That's weird. You're always nice. I'm like, nah, I'm not always nice. But I am honest and fair. But it just dawned on me just a couple years ago, I have a sister who's special needs. And I think one of the most valuable lessons that I learned that we share with our student athletes now is I learned at a very young age that not everything was about me. Which I think that if more student athletes, more young people, people like you, John, like you being here today, I don't know, he might be the youngest person in here, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah, but like that's a trailblazer, right? Like, come on, let's get more people like that. But not everything is about you in life. It can be about serving somebody. It can be about showing up for somebody. It can be about uplifting somebody, no matter in what way, whether it's cutting down trees, that's pretty cool. But you don't have to have a lot in order to do that. So when you watch our program and you watch me and our staff, that's a little bit about the spirit about how we do things and why we do things the way that we do. Does anybody have any questions about women's basketball? Go ahead, Eric.
You said, I love you, but there must be a consequence. For somebody who's got a 9-year-old who's giving him trouble, explain that.
Okay, so, we talk about in our program, we always tell the truth. They know our number one rule, We can work through just about everything if you're going to tell the truth. But just because you tell the truth doesn't mean there won't be a consequence. There's still right and wrong, right? And so just understanding when is the moment for that consequence and when is the moment for the conversation. And there can still be a conversation, but there can still be a consequence. But trying to understand that, I think, is incredibly crucial. Questions, anybody?
Coach, how much has NIL impacted women's sports and
Oh,
especially
boy.
basketball?
A lot. Probably, I don't want to speak for other women's sports because obviously I'm not as deeply ingrained in them as I am in women's basketball. Tremendously. I'd be standing here lying if I didn't tell you our student athletes, I'm very blessed. They came to University of Florida because they want to do something for the first time. They came to the University of Florida because they want to be surrounded by great people. They came to the university because of the education and because of the vision that we have laid out. Now it's going to take time. I know right now in this day and age we want everything like this. But if you're going to do it, somebody stood up here and talked about doing it the right way, doing it with integrity, doing it not cutting corners. It's gonna take some time. It just is. But NIL has significantly impacted women's basketball. There's an equivalency sport in men's basketball. So there's a lot of comparisons. I'll give you one fact though. NIL sponsorship through businesses supported more women's basketball players than men's basketball players last year. However, NIL collectives monetarily supported men's basketball players at a way higher rate than women's basketball. That's nationally. And I find that interesting because it's not a comparison. You're talking to a coach, I want men's basketball to have what they need. I want softball to have what they need. I want football to have what they need. You understand. You don't want your business to fail so my business can be great. That's not the right way to do it, right? And so I say that, but I think that sometimes it gets lost in the Title IX and that there is an equivalency sport. So my student athletes are in the same building as our men's student athletes. They have a very good idea of everything, of what that looks like. So it's a challenge, but sometimes I talk about, okay, you want this. We talk about fast money is never good money. It's not. You work for what you earn, right? And I have a student athlete on our team that was being enticed to go somewhere else. And last year she said to me, it was really hard for her. It was really hard for her. Would have helped her family a lot. But she said to me, you know what, Kelly? I think if I get good enough and we do what we've set out to do, I can earn everything that I should get here at Florida. My only hope is that it's when people see that and that's the spirit behind it, I'm like, oh, I want to support that. I can get with that. That makes sense. So that's a long-winded answer to a short question.
I have a question about service that sometimes you say that your team will do.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if there's any way that at any point we could incorporate Rotary in a service
for sure.
project. So
Yeah, that
I
would
just
be
want to put
great.
that out there. And I guess you would talk to our president about that, but I was just being creative about things that we could do together.
I love that. And so I have a real spirit of like, okay, let's try this. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, okay, let's go try this. And
Yeah, you gotta try.
I have a team, and I will say this, I learned at a young age, I was coaching at the University of Colorado and we had been really, really good the season before. And I only say this to piggyback on what you're saying. We teach our student athletes, our girls, I call them girls sometimes, our young women, that it's okay. So many times young women, and I don't know about men because I'm a girl, so okay. They'll protect themselves from failure or from trying their hardest just because they don't want to fail. And so I always tell them, guys, I learned at 28 what it felt like to try my very hardest and it to still not be good enough. And that's when I was able to detach. And so when you're talking about service, you know, so it's like, okay, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's serve somebody. So that's something we would love to do. If anybody has any ideas, our goal for our program this year, we're going to have a good basketball team. We're very interesting because we have 7 seniors and 6 underclassmen. We return Rae Kyle, for those of you that don't know, got injured second game of conference. We were clicking, we were playing, we beat Michigan, in the Jumpman Classic by 25. We felt like we were rolling. We played South Carolina to a close game, 12-point game. And then she got injured. So she was out for the remainder of the season. And it just kind of shifted what we had to do just a little bit. It's like losing your quarterback, right? So she'll be back. We return Aaliyah Matharu, who's the 3rd leading scorer in the SEC. There are 2 seniors for us, Jariah Warren, who's played for us for 4 seasons now. And then we couple that with freshman guard who won the gold medal with Team USA this summer, the first time ever. We have 3 McDonald's and Jordan Brand All-Americans in our freshman and sophomore classes for the first time in school history. So our young kids, they're talented. We have Miara O'Neal, who's very, very versatile. I'm sure you guys have heard, Shaquille O'Neal's daughter. One thing I really appreciate about him, this is about his daughter. It's about her leaving her legacy and building her own path. So I encourage you to come out and watch us play. But if there's any way we can help build support around our team, we would love to do that. We really want to pack the stands. We want people to come. I give a lot of access to our student athletes because I want them to learn how to speak for themselves. I want them to learn how to, like I said before, be strong, confident young women. And so we have all kinds of different ideas, but anything that we can do to help or where we can show up, please let us know because we would love to do so.
Kelly, it's been a fantastic talk here. Thank you. And one thing that's intrigued me is the NCAA trying to figure out a solution how to equalize this new program with dollars.
Well, I don't know. That's way above my pay grade, John. So I'm going to let them figure that out, and then I'm going to play my role, okay?
How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's hard because it's an ever-changing space, right? It's like you sign up to play a game, and then all of a sudden you're in the game, and the rules of the game change. And then it's, hey, everything that you've been taught for the last 17 years, hey, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. This is for all of us. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait, you can do that. And by the way, be an expert at it too while you're at it. It's like, wait, what? What did I just sign up for? You know, so it's not an answer of how do I feel. It's what it is. I think people should be able to be compensated for what they earn. But I also think that there's real life to all of this, right? There should be consequences. There's different things, you know, whatever. But I grew up in Minnesota, guys. So it's like kind of old school, blue collar. My dad worked construction. We striped tennis courts in the summer, you know, all that kind of good stuff.
Thank you. This is really exciting and inspiring. I was just telling my wife we need to get out and see more of the university's women's sports. So I think we'll be there. One invitation to get involved with rebuilding together. I can just imagine a lot of what we do is painting and nailing things on the side of the house. And I can see a whole team of people there without a ladder.
Yeah.
You know, we won't have to worry about.
You're right on that. That is something that, so this summer, we would love to do that. We have a group, like I said, of really hard workers. We went to Habitat for Humanity. Don't record this. We kicked ass, I think. We were like, I get there. I mean, you guys, it's like 106 degrees. It's the middle of the day. And I'm like, oh, God, okay, we need water. You know, we've got water and Gatorade and all these things. And the girls, they're in 2 shifts. And so they're painting. And so then all of a sudden they're like, well, we've got 3 coats on the outside of the whole house. And so now let's paint the foundation. And they're like, huh? You want us to do what? And they're like, yeah. So then Layla Reynolds, she's a sophomore for us. She's laying you guys in the sand, painting the foundation. I go, Lay, do you need like to put something down? She goes, no, I'm just envisioning I'm at the beach. It's okay. She's doing her sand like this, and she's going, I'm exfoliating. I'm like, oh gosh. So yes, most definitely we love things like that. In any way that we can interact and lift up our community, we want to do that for sure.
That's great. I always enjoy seeing the teams out there. A question though, when we were talking about the NIL and the recognition going to a lot of the top players, how do you deal with the emotions of players who aren't getting recognized?
That's a great question. And you know, most people, what's your name, Helen? Helen. I'm Kelly, nice to meet you. Most people don't think about that. It's really hard, especially as a coach, when, okay, so I'll kind of take it back and I won't be long-winded. You can kick me off anytime you guys got to go, but sport started as a supplement to education, college sport. So that's where my heart is. But we also can teach them real life lessons. Like I tell our team all the time this. You don't get to walk into Nike and say, hey, I want to be the CEO. Of course, you can want to be the CEO. You should. You should aspire to do so. You don't walk in and go, well, I'm going to get paid what he gets paid, and if I don't get paid what he gets paid, then I'm quitting. Good luck feeding your family. Good luck putting your house. Good luck paying your rent. Good luck all these things, right? And so I've always had this idea. Just because I do think student athletes should be able to earn. However, I like a good game, okay? Instead of a talk like me telling them, right? So let's get some Monopoly money and let's give everybody a salary. But now you're gonna pay me to train you, and I'm not training you for less than $200 an hour. Because I'm a professional. What? I have to pay you to train me? Yes. That's what it would be if you're a professional, right? Okay, and then when you get the massage, and then when you go to the training room, and then you get the treatment, like you don't just get to go to the cold tub. You got to pay to go to the cold tub, you know? And so when you start to do things like that at little activities, it's like, oh, wait a second. Okay, I'm grateful for what I've been given because we're still on full scholarship. We still go to this beautiful dining hall. My God, you guys, it is, I would venture to say it's the best in the country. And for our team, it's made a tremendous difference. Everybody has increased their body mass and decreased their fat. So you want to talk about performance? That has this most singular impact on what we do every day, right? Just because of what they're consuming. But you know, what's fair is not always equal. I don't know if you've seen the little cartoon, they have like boxes. So like, you know, his box is this high and my box might be this high, but we're both seen over the fence. Well, it's not equal, but it is fair because we're both going in the same direction. So it just takes a lot of conversations for sure. And at the end of the day, what's good for one is not always good for another, and that's okay too.
Coach, I was wondering what in your mind makes a great team as opposed to just a good team? And then do you have those components? And if you don't have those components, what components are you looking for? And how are you planning to build and fill those components?
Yeah, great question. I think something that stood out to us really a lot lately is care. As silly as that sounds, is love and forgiveness and a tremendous amount of care. Now, you have to have a base athleticism, you have to have a base skill set, you have to have some things that are just flat out required. You have to have a great shooter, you have to have a great facilitator, you have to have a physical post player. Like, I'm not talking about those things, right? But what makes an elite team elite is the love, the forgiveness, and the care. Because if I don't care for you, now you make a mistake, because it goes back to what Helen was saying, now you're messing with my money. So now I'm mad at you. Now I'm mad at you, I might not pass you the ball. Well, how the heck are we supposed to be great? But forgiveness, you know, like not keeping score is incredibly important. I say the forgiveness and the love, because when you love somebody, you don't let them fail. You don't just love You don't love somebody and just let them do whatever they want to do. And that's not love. That's how we talk about it, right? And care is how you show up for people. Am I looking around, okay, you know, the 6 of us, we're going here. Wait, do you have your shoes? Everybody got their shoes? Well, if I don't care about you, I'm like, I got my shoes. Oh, you don't got your shoes? Well, guess what? We don't have a post player today. Because our post player doesn't have her shoes. Well, we're going to fail instantly. Those kinds of things. So that's what I think makes an elite team, right? Outside of the tangibles, right? For us, we're working on that. I think it's an ongoing process, probably for every team in the country, just with social media and what that looks like and the skills that have been taught in high school and when they were younger. But we're a heck of a lot closer than we've ever been. I will say how Shay and Layla and our freshmen come along is going to greatly impact our success in terms of wins and losses. They have a tremendous responsibility. Aaliyah's going to handle her business. She's going to do what she does. And then everybody else understanding and accepting and executing their role to the best of their ability is going to really determine, you know, if we can get 4 or 5 more wins, especially in conference. Now the conference, and I'll stop here, but with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas, you add the 2 best teams out of the Big 12 into our conference. In women's basketball, it's by far and away the best women's basketball conference in the country. So they're talking about like maybe a 7 and 11 teams are going to be making the tournament. For those of you that don't know, they took away conference schedules as a determining factor for the NCAA tournament. That's a yay for us in the SEC because like for softball, those of you that might know, we had 2 teams that didn't make the SEC tournament that made the NCAA tournament in softball because of how difficult our conference is. Women's basketball is exactly the same. So it'll look a little bit different. We play every opponent once. We play Alabama twice this year. So that'll be a little bit different. But we play South Carolina doesn't come to us this year. We've got some great home games in the non-conference. We play Miami at home. Hopefully you all can join us for that. And then we play Florida State as well in the non-conference, North Carolina and Clemson. So we got a stacked schedule, so we got to come correct and come ready. So thank you all. And then anytime you'd like to come to practice or anything like that, please just reach out. We have a booster club that we really want to get off the ground and up and running, and we're so grateful for everything that they do for us, but our door is always open and you're always welcome. So thank you again. Go Gators.
Well, thank you, Coach Finley, for coming and speaking with us today. In honor of your talk, we're going to make a donation to the Child Center for Early Learning in your name. Just a quick reminder, next week's speaker is Kim Tuttle from Dance Live. And a quote for the week, "A good coach can change a game, a great coach can change a life." John Wooden. And our winner is 559. 559. No winner. All right. Well, we are adjourned. Have a great day. I sure did. All right. We got to figure out how to get, I'm not even sure how it works.